Battlefield 1 has just received its first paid DLC drop. They shall not pass. It's now available for premium members, and you can buy it separately if you want to. And in December, we all got access to a free map called Giant Shadow. Now, we know there are 3 more DLCs on their way, all paid ones, and they will come with 4 new maps each, an array of weapons, gadgets, vehicles, and even more. But what you might remember back in Battlefield 4 is that DICE launched an initiative called the Community Map Project. This allowed the community to choose and vote on the direction of a brand new map being developed for that game, and then they could test each incremental update on the CTE. The idea was that DICE wanted to see what the community could do in terms of influence on the design and the process of building a Battlefield map. And the result of that was Operation Outbreak, a map set in the Harau Valley in Indonesia, where a chemical warfare facility was located. The map went through a lot of changes before finally being released to the public, and many regard it as one of the better maps in Battlefield 4. But why am I talking about this? Battlefield 4 has been and gone, there are no further updates for that game, so why am I talking about the Community Map Project? Well, the other day, on the Battlefield 1 CTE Reddit pages, a community member posted a thread about whether we could see something similar for Battlefield 1 in the future, and the developers replied. Indigold, who is a developer over at DICE LA, replied to the thread saying the following: "We'll have some more information regarding maps testing fairly soon. The way the community map turned out in BF4 was great, and we really liked it. And it's often brought up in meetings as something we should be doing more of." Looks like the seed has been planted then. Let the rumours begin. It's just great to see DICE is so open to the idea of having a community-developed map in Battlefield 1 again. There's huge scope to what they could do with it, and it's really, really engaging for the community. However, I think there might be a few blockades on this idea right now. I'm going to try and explain those for you today. Firstly, there are 3 paid DLCs still to be released for Battlefield 1. The development team are clearly hard at work developing all this content right now, and they have to deliver it as many players have paid for a premium pass to access it all. They're for sure in the middle of development of the Russian DLC right now, In the Name of the Tsar. That has 4 maps of its own that need to be completed, 4 new class soldiers dressed as Russians, an elite class, behemoth, vehicles, a new game mode, and likely even more. That's a lot of content, and that is just one of the 3 DLCs. There's 2 more coming after that, Turning Tides and Apocalypse. I'd find it hard to believe that DICE would be willing to sacrifice development time on those projects in order to enter a longer process with the community to design and implement just one map. Remember, the Community Map Project in Battlefield 4 lasted a full 9 or 10 months, from initial concept all the way through the development and then out to release on the other side. It's likely we'd see a very similar development time for a map like that in Battlefield 1. Secondly, and I think this one is quite important, many of the key battles and locations of World War I, at least the most popular ones in terms of history coverage, will have already been covered within Battlefield 1 and its DLCs anyway. We've had the introduction of the French army and its Verdun forts, we'll soon have the Russian army and the Eastern Front, we'll have amphibious warfare in Turning Tides with the Gallipoli landings, the Zeebrugge raid and even more, and then Apocalypse, bringing in yet unannounced infamous battles of World War I with a heavy lean towards unique weapons as well. DICE couldn't go ahead and just make a map that didn't feature in World War I, because that would break the overarching story of the game. They'd need to implement something real, historical, and something that actually happened. They had a lot more leeway in Battlefield 4 because the war that happened in that game, the War of 2020, was a fictional depiction of a war that could have happened. A lot more artistical license there, and they can pretty much do whatever they want. This is World War I, however. It's all written in history, and if you try and change that too much, I don't think it's really going to work. There are still thousands more battles, skirmishes, and events that could be depicted in Battlefield 1 than there will be by the time all the DLC has been released, and I have no doubt that DICE would pick something poignant and very interesting. But a lot of the higher level stuff will already be covered. If a community map project does get greenlighted for Battlefield 1, I'll be very interested to see what options are given to us by the developers at DICE. And thirdly, we don't know how long DICE is planning to support Battlefield 1 after the last DLC is released for the game. Battlefield 4's support was extended much further than was originally intended, and that was in part due to DICE LA campaigning for the original community test environment to be set up, and all the players still left playing could help shape the game and root out the bugs, if you had premium, that is. Battlefield 1 doesn't have those same problems. It's not a buggy mess. It plays very well, and sure, there are some improvements that can be made, but it's far and away a much more stable title. Battlefield 1 does have the lacking content issue, but that is going to be solved by the paid DLCs that are being released. Is there any reason for DICE to support Battlefield 1 much longer than the last DLC, Apocalypse? I'm sure it will stay updated by the team, but in terms of content, will that be needed? The next Battlefield game is set to launch in 2018, that's been confirmed by EA already. And with Apocalypse rumoured to be launching in early 2018 anyway, will DICE need to produce an extra map that's shaped by the community? At the end of the day, it might be a community map project, but it's the developer's time that's going to be taken up by making that map. Could that time be put towards something else, like the brand new Battlefield game? I'd like to think that DICE would. Adding another free map for all players alongside the announcement of Premium Friends, essentially allowing all players of Battlefield 1 now to access all of the maps in the game, that would be seen as a great move by DICE from the community. And allowing the community to directly influence on the map as well, that would be a great way to engage players who still play the game regularly. To be honest, I don't see DICE announcing a community map project for Battlefield 1 in the immediate future, but I do see them doing it a little bit closer to the end of the DLC cycle, when perhaps more members of the team aren't so heavily invested in content that's already been announced. The project was a massive success for Battlefield 4, and I'm confident it would have exactly the same effect in Battlefield 1. Personally, if DICE did go ahead and announce this for the game, I'd love to see them perhaps give us options like the Battle of the Isonzo River between the Italian army and the Austro-Hungarians. It was essentially a fruitless battle, and it happened like 9 or 10 times. Just ridiculous. Or even the fortress of Przemyśl that the Russians captured and held out in for a long time at the start of the war. Both of those might be familiar to you if you watch the Great War channel. They get mentioned like all of the time. DICE could even go a little bit further back to the Middle East and revisit the Ottoman Empire fighting the British troops in the desert there. But I do know that the desert maps in Battlefield 1 aren't the most liked, and Suez is pretty much the least popular map in the entire game. You could even extend the battle and the story and make a map that was set in Africa between German colonial troops and the British down there. Horses were actually painted as zebras for camouflage during those battles. That would be pretty awesome to see. But what do you guys think? Would you like to see DICE involve the community again in creating a map for Battlefield 1, or would you rather leave it to the development team on their own? For me, the community map project did exactly what it said on the tin. It included the community, it got the community excited, and they produced probably one of the best maps in Battlefield 4, and most of the decisions were driven directly by the people who were playing the map on the CTE and giving feedback. It did change quite a few times, going from a white box stage all the way through to putting the textures in, and I can remember playing the map the first time and looking at it like, what does this even look like? Why aren't there textures anywhere? And of course you have to remember, you are in the middle of development for a map in the game. But by the time it was finished, it was one of the best infantry conquest maps in the game, and even for Rush, it was a fairly good game mode as well. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'll be down there reading as many as I can. But until the next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.